Hi, welcome to another edition of MySQL. My name is Nate Nestler, and this is for Hyperactive Studios. Okay, so starting back where we kind of left off before with MySQL, let's have a look at some other things we can do with our different statements. So I'm already in the shell, I'm already in my scripts folder from before, but let me go ahead and move back into my database. So if I say show databases, semicolon, you can see a couple different ones here I'm allowed to access. In this case, users is one of them. So if I say use users, like that, I'm now in the new one. Cool. If I say show tables, I can see all the different tables I have to work with. Again, so there we are. We have test table and PHP session. Okay, cool. Now the only one we've been putting data in so far has been test table. So if I say star space from test table, like that, we can see we have two particular entries here. Now, I could say something like let's do another select here. Select star from this case test table, where name equals quotes. Or I could put spaces here. It doesn't matter. And let's just say Bob, for instance. Semicolon at the end. Sorry. Yeah, semicolon goes at the end of that. Okay, so there we selected Bob. So that's how we can select a particular entry into name, and that's cool. We kind of did that from beforehand too, so very useful and all. But I say insert into test table. Let's see here, the values here. Leave that in parentheses. And we're going to say null for the first one, all caps, comma. Jill. I'll do a lowercase like the others, right? Jill, and just be like Jill at localhost. And of course I made a mistake. Oh, you know what? I forgot to put double quotes around this. Oh my gosh. There we go. What mistake did I possibly make? Alright, so besides Jill here, we could do another one too. How about I don't know, Jane. I'm not sure. It's coming up with different ones here. Okay, we do another one, maybe like Ashley. About let's add a guy in here. Let's do Zach. Alright. Now it's cool because now if I come down here to do these select statements, I still get Bob, but if I way back to there, I get all these different selections. Now I could say something like Bob and name equals, let's say here Ashley, for instance. Okay, we don't have, oh yeah, I'm not thinking. Wouldn't have name, can't have name for both. Could do it or that way though. I'll show you. There we go. There's the or. For the and, you can't do name for both. That won't work. That won't make sense. But we can do email here. So if I say email like this, and like if both were true on this scenario, then it will work. So basically, I would need to say Bob at localhost. So this is a good example. Like both are going to have to be true in order for it to work. Otherwise, it won't work. So it kind of matters. Um, we can also do order by. Yep. So let's do that one. It's kind of cool. So we go back to our original select here before we did all those. Okay. And if I say order by, and then we can order by maybe like name, for instance, because that was the one that probably makes the most sense in our scenario here. And if I do DESC or DSC here for descending order, this puts it in descending order, which makes it opposite. Normally it's ASC, ascending order. There you go. There's ascending order instead. So there's the difference between descending and ascending order right there. Of course, if you don't say ASC period and you just do it, it's going to be ascending order by default. But ASC is the command for that. Alright, so there's an example of another one. There's another command that's really useful. It's called like. So let's have a look at that. And it's also, while we talk about this one, talk about also how okay, so it's cool because we have two of them that actually have a J in it. So that's kind of nice. So if I say J in this case, J here, and then do a percent sign, what that's going to do is we're going to say this is your wildcard character here, and so everything that matches the percent, you basically we require it to start with a lowercase j, and then everything after that can be any character. So if I do that there, oh, our name is like, not equal to, my apologies. And so we get Jill and Jane there because they're both like a J, starting with a J. So very cool. As another example here, you might be going to say, okay, so it's just like or. Not quite. Let me show you. You can do this too here. So now we picked up all of them that have an A in it. So this gave us James, Ashley, and Zach. As you notice, they all have an A in their name. So put the percents on both sides. So you can actually use this to perform searches. Not detailed searches or very powerful ones for as far as that goes, but you really need an actual search engine for that, and that gets really complicated. But as far as just doing regular SQL statements, you can actually perform search type queries with them, and they can be pretty powerful. So there's that. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, another one that we can do, I should probably bring out the not here. So if I say not in front of this, it's going to be all the ones that don't have A in it. So it gives you the inverse there of that, which is pretty cool. So if you want to make sure you don't have any of the ones that have an A in it, you get Bob, Student, and Jill, you notice that none of them have an A in their name at all. So there's another one that's kind of cool. Let's see here. Well, let's do between. Between's always fun. So that would be pretty cool. So we can do a range here. So if I want to grab the records between maybe 3 and 6, it's going to grab all those records as far as that goes for an ID. So where this is going to be auto ID, because we named it that for our ID. A lot of times a lot of people just call it ID, but I call mine auto ID. Alright, so where auto ID is between 3 and 6. Alright, so it gave me those two. What if I said 3 and 8? Alright, see? So we can actually use this to kind of do a range of things. And just like before, now we can also throw a not in here, and then that'll give us all the ones that aren't between 3 and 8, which would be 9 and 10. So it's pretty fast. We got 0.00 seconds to process this, so that's pretty quick. Databases are extremely fast at getting data. They're awesome. So yeah, they're pretty cool. They're pretty powerful. But not only could you do numbers, you could also do it in a range of characters too. So that's a good thing to point out too, I guess. So instead of doing auto ID here, let's try doing name again. All right, say name, say between in this case. And let's just do J. All right. There you go. Add L is between and not including J. So I had to say L in order to pick up J also. So there we go. There's a good example of how to use the between. Now we could also again use not in front of this. We could say not between that, and I get the others. And I think if I recall, we did a not. Yeah, we did not between up here too. Cool. All right. So there's that. And that's another example of how you could use that. Besides that, oh, well, all right. Let's go over a bit more stuff. Earlier I talked about the percent sign a bit. Yeah, but we could also match single characters, and this can get kind of detailed as far as matching, as far as that goes. So if I wanted to, I could match only that one there. For instance, it's going to only grab the ones. There we go. So I got Jane and I got Zach with the A in their name. So pretty cool, and it matched only the ones that started with. This is completely different than if I did a percent here. See that? Yep. So we got Ashley there in our mix, but if we say the underscore has to match one random character, so the first character must exist and it can be wild. So in this case, we're requiring that there be a character, one character in front of the A, and none afterwards. So very cool. Okay, we're going to continue on here. I kind of stopped the video where I did because it was about almost 4:30 a.m. and I'd had it, but I was barely able to keep it together at that point. It's getting pretty punchy. So I'll probably end up covering some more of the commands for a database beyond this here in yet another video. But let's go over some other stuff for databases here with MySQL and go over how to set up. So let's write up a couple of scripts here and so we source them into our database. And then we can make use of it. Now, before we went over the create user here, just use your name that you want. And I'm saying at localhost to point to this computer. And then I'm saying identify by and then the password. So as far as that goes, I'm going to grant all privileges on for everything to identify by Nate with option flash privileges, like so. And it makes it update. So. But I could get in here and get specific with it and narrow it down to just a particular database. As for instance, if I went in here, I could say users dot star, and this would be only for the users table database. So, for instance, I could come in here and say users, because we set that one up earlier, dot star, and that would mean all the tables within the users database. So if I do star dot star, it means all databases, all tables, or if I just do star, same thing. But if I do star dot and then certain table, then it'd be all databases with a certain table or a list of tables, however you want to do it. But typically, if you're going to use a name and a star type combination, you're going to be saying the database and then all its tables. It just kind of makes sense. The likelihood of having the same table on a bunch of different databases is not nearly as high. So, but you could do it. So there we are, and we're identifying and we're creating grant privileges and everything as far as that goes. I could also set up like another administrator like I had before, where I just did it as a star. But let's say we just wanted to have this user have only permissions for this database, which is the way you really want to do it in the real world. Very important to do that so that you minimize risk to other applications on the network, on the server with database applications. And this minimizes the risk to other database applications by having unique passwords and usernames on the database server. You do not want someone having the privileges to go around and start deleting from other other databases, or stealing their information from other databases, or you get the idea. So it kind of matters, big time. So yeah, we definitely want that set up. All right, so this is the same from before. We have our test table. We have our users, which hasn't changed any at all on this stuff here. But one of the things that's different here is this tester table. Now I created this table specifically for getting across the idea of, so yeah, you can just copy and paste these other ones, and you wouldn't have to do any edits on them from your other script that we wrote before, the other .sql one we did. I believe it's example SQL.sql. Anyways, so we create a table here. I'm calling it tester, and this gets across the idea of some of these other data types that you can have in the table. And I just kind of wanted to show them off with a table like this. So I started coming up with different fields that would be possible in one of these tables. Now I called mine auto ID for this first field. You could call it ID. A lot of people do. I've called mine auto ID to let myself know that this is going to be auto incrementing. And then int unsigned int. This is going to be your not a big int, but it's not. So it's it's around size of a medium int. And so this is a larger size int. Actually, when we do that, if you want to, like, oh, we're gonna have tons and tons of records, you could replace int with big int for this and give you a chance for more records. Basically, big int would probably be a good idea if you're gonna have a massive size database, or you don't want to worry about later on. So it's always an option there. So unsigned, of course, because we don't want to be assigned int, and then we say not null, so we don't want to ever be null. It's got to be a primary key, and we want to auto increment. So we're going to do that, comma. Name here, we're going to do a varchar. Oh, did I ever do a text? Oh, man. All right, so a varchar is variable text up to 100 characters in this case, comma. And then we can do gender bit. This be a 1 or 0. This is great if you're doing male or female. It's got to be one of the two, so that's great. I guess we don't support hermaphrodites on this. So gender bit here would just be male or female. Older 21 bool here, comma. And so this is another example. This is a boolean, true or false. Are they older than 21? Yeah, it matters if you're doing a restaurant and you're serving alcohol or something of that nature. You need to know that. Num restaurants here. Number of restaurants. Maybe we figure it's not going to be a really big number. We can use a small int for that. Then we can say num underscore food score supplies medium int. So number of food supplies, as far as that goes, that are needed for the restaurants, that could be a medium int. So I'm kind of setting this up as like I started just turning this into like a restaurant database purchasing system, more or less, I guess, for the ins and outs of the company here. But num of food purchases, so there's a number of different plates that were sold for so this way you could track your. Basically, it's like doing accounting processing, where you're tracking your accounting operations type stuff, type idea here. So num of food purchases. So this tracks how many different plates were sold of. It could be used with a certain item or something of that nature, and that's where that name gets into being of use here. So you know how many food purchases of a particular name, something of that nature, or whatever. Sales big int, how much sales you had. Menu item, ID, tiny int. I'm sorry, name would be, I guess, of the person, really. And then the menu item ID would be tied back to the menu. So then you could have all your menu information on the menu item ID, and then you're just referencing it. And then you could do table referencing another table as a foreign key, basically. I'm not getting into that right now, but yeah. It's basically how I was setting it up. So menu underscore item underscore ID, and this would be the auto ID from the menu item database table. So it's going to be a tiny int because it's going to be really small. It's going to be smaller than a small int. And then here's our email here for the varchar. There's also a possibility of text, and then it could be any number of length. We can see that one there. I believe we went over this last time. So yeah, it'd be any length. There's no set length to it. Whereas varchar is going to have a set length. It cannot go beyond 100 characters. So if you're wanting to limit it, that's a great way to handle it. And then we also had decimal in there from before, so I didn't feel the need to cover that again. So these were the remaining ones that we really hadn't covered for the most part. And there you go. I think there's blob too, but I haven't covered that. So if you want to store something like a binary, like an image or an audio file or a movie or a application software package, etc. I personally don't recommend putting that stuff directly into the database because it bloats up your database. And I recommend having a file path to the file and then serving that from a distributed network server cluster. But that to me is more efficient. But you can put them directly into the database. The upside to that is you get a really fast lookup on that file. The downside is you are slamming your database by doing that. So so your database is going to be under a pretty heavy load if you do that. But it depends on what you're doing. If you're not doing like a very high yield, if you're not having like a whole lot of people traffic going across your server, then you can get away with doing blob. But I pretty much avoid that for the most part for that reason alone, for performance, as far as that goes. Plus, I don't want my database to get huge. I want to keep that manageable as much as possible, to me anyways. Alright, so we have our PHP session. Cool. And that didn't change from before. We're just doing our select from test table, students, all that stuff's the same. Updating the student databases and tables there. So, all that stuff didn't change down here. I just kept that the same. But I did want to put this tester in there just to show you how these different types of basically different data types you can have when you're creating a table, more or less. And that pretty much covers it for the most part on that. Now, besides that, let's look at another one. So you can source this and create this, but that basically shows you how to go about that and how you can use those and why. Cool. And this was just a basic demo. This wasn't really designed to do a restaurant or anything like that. Just kind of started turning it into that, but you would want to break things up into different tables, like the name along with the whole person's information, and then it would have an ID, and then you do a associative ID with what they purchased, all this stuff as a foreign key, things of that nature to it. And then you'd have this broken up to many different tables, and referring to different tables within the other tables based on their ID numbers for the other fields, things of that nature. So that way you can set up your many to one, one to many, many to many relationships, or one-to-one relationships, etc. I'm not getting into that stuff in this video. maybe in another video here for databases I could get into that. But yeah, here's how you basically go about this, and it's pretty cool and it's pretty powerful. So example SQL.SQL. I changed this one up some, I think. Yeah. A little bit actually. So we have all these privileges from before, blah, blah, blah. But one of the things I added was this company one and this profile. And I want to show a more advanced setup here. And the reason why is because we're going to use this when we code this up in some of our PHP stuff, as far as that goes. And so we basically need to go over how to create this table. So I did another one that said create company here. For instance, you can put this in the same one with the other one if you like. It does not matter to me. It just works, period, either way. So whatever you want to do does not matter. You put in your old one, it doesn't matter. But anyways, auto ID unsigned, not null, auto increment, primary key, etc. Comma, name varchar here is 100. Phone char is 15. Shouldn't be more than 15 digits on that. Cell, same thing. Fax, same thing. Email, 100. PayPal, 100. Street, 100. City, 100. State should be 2. Why is state 100? Oops, sorry. State should be 2, because you're just going to be doing the state letters. Like TN for Tennessee, or GA for Georgia, or FL for Florida, etc. So we have zip here. This would be the zip code. Really, honestly, the zip isn't going to get larger than, let's see here, that'd be, gosh, I would say 11 characters at the max, if I remember right. You might be going, well, there's only 5 characters for a zip. No, actually, there's a, that's just like a generalized, if you did something like 50035 or whatever, I don't even know what zip code that would be, but if you did that, that's like a general area. You can do another part of the zip dash before that, and that actually targets a particular house or a particular location exactly. And just with that one number, you can pinpoint an exact location with the postal service. And but you do a dash in between. That's why I added another character. And if I remember right, the number that goes before it's about 5 characters long too. So that's why I was saying I think 11 is what you would need for a minimum on that. So it's like that number, 5 characters, dash, and then the next 5 characters. So yeah, that's why I was doing that. His website 100. Yeah, I would hope they wouldn't need more than 100 characters for the website address, but you know, hey. And then profile ID int unsigned here. Cool. So that way we can create our foreign key to our profile. And that's referring to our ID from here from our profile. So we do a create table here, profile. And of course, we close parentheses, semicolon as usual. Open parentheses, auto ID here, int unsigned, not null, auto increment, primary key, comma. All right, I'm going to say name varchar is 100, email varchar 100, and then let's get their password, and that's also going to be 100 variable characters. And so that sets up those 2 tables as far as that goes. And then we'd need to insert them, which is a little bit more complicated. Let's come down here to do that. So the only 2 entries really interested are these right here. Or 3, shall I say. Oh, I'm sorry, we're not interested in the first one. We're only interested in line 53 and 54. Note, this is word wrapping. So, quite literally, this all goes on one line. That is one line. It does not fit across the screen because it's too long on the video here. It literally did what's called word wrapping, where this wraps around. Now, I could sit there and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll to show you, but I'd rather have it word wrap so you can see it, the whole thing, without me having to scroll all the way over to show you. So I didn't make it not word wrap on purpose. I did make it automatically go to the next line, even though it's not on the next line. It's essentially all considered one line. Okay, so this all goes on one long line. Okay, you're not going to put this on separate lines. If you do, it will not work. All right, you cannot put single. You cannot break this up across multiple lines. It will cause an error. So we're going to do an insert into company values, open parentheses, null, comma, and I'll just start making up a company name. I have no idea if this company exists. My apologies if you do exist. But single quotes here, cyber space coders space LLC, close single quotes. Note that is space, that is not enter. You are not going down to the next line. Comma, single quotes, 775. I just made up a phone number. Hope this phone number doesn't exist. -346 -2367 single quotes. Just make up whatever phone number you want. Comma, and I just did a different one. I did single quotes here, 345-745-2367 single quotes, comma, and I did another one, single quotes, and that is 487-436-2349 single quotes, close, closing single quotes there, comma, open quotes, single that is, nate@cybercoders.com, single quotes, and I'll put your own, whatever, as far as that goes. And make sure that this is, yeah, and then it's going to be a comma, and then a single quote, sorry, it didn't fit on here, and it'd be payments at cybercoders.com, single quotes. Wow. So even with word wrapping, it still didn't quite wrap. It's based on the resolution of the virtual machine. This virtual machine is longer than what I've fit in this video. So I was afraid that if I made it full length of my screen, that for a lot of people this wouldn't be able to show up for them because it'd be too wide. So we went to full screen it. Payments at cybercoders.com here as far as that goes. And that goes for the PayPal, comma, and then we're doing our street address, which I did 123. Sounds like Sesame Street or something. 123 Coding Street. Close single quotes, comma, open quotes, and I called this Codeville. Close single quotes, comma. We put it in Georgia. Why not, right? Open single quotes, GA, close quotes, comma, comma here, open single quotes. And the zip code for Georgia for this is totally unrealistic. It's 55555. Close single quotes, comma, open single quotes, www.cybercoders.com. Close single quotes, comma, 1, close parentheses, semicolon. All right, and again, that's all one line. Okay. Alrighty. So insert into profile values. Open parentheses, null, comma, open single quotes, Nate, close single quotes, comma, open single quotes here, Nate at cybercoders.com, close single quotes, comma, open single quotes, password, close single quotes, close parentheses, semicolon. And so this is going to, propagate those two databases with one insert entry field into there. If I wanted to make more, I could. I would just have to go in there and add them. Of course, we can also do that when we start doing this with PHP too, so that works out too. But you could use a number of different things besides PHP. You could also use something like the Django or Ruby on Rails or Java Spring or ZK framework, or I mean, we just keep going down the line. There's quite a few of them here that we could use. So that's pretty cool, and there's a lot of different things that are you could use to develop a website framework backend, as far as that goes. And yeah, I do recommend using frameworks by far, but you get the idea. And that should just get you set up for doing this basic setup here for your database tables here. And this should get you know enough just so you're dangerous. You won't be a master of MySQL databases after going through these two videos, but you can do some things. You can actually make a working application at this point. You know enough to do that. And then learning more caveats like doing join tables and the different many-to-many relationship type stuff. Yeah, we need to go over that eventually. That's important. All that's important. But this definitely lets you at least get your feet wet and lets you get going with this as a more of a solid basis. And yeah, we didn't do stored procedures either. There's a number of things we haven't covered yet for MySQL. So yet another video needs to be made on MySQL to cover that. But as far as that goes, we got the stuff pretty much have you set up where you're actually starting to make stuff with this. And then you could use this with whatever framework backend you're wanting to use, or it doesn't even have to be a web framework backend. It could just be a regular application, maybe C++ or C# or Java or whatever. So if you're going to do any of those type things, you could do that also, or C, whatever. It's whatever. But Python's another one. Yeah, sure. But anyways, with that said, let's go ahead and make that wrapping up this video on MySQL. And then we'll just dive into the PHP after this one. Cool. Talk to you later. Thank you very much.